Lynnwood DUI lawyer. Are you charged with a Lynnwood DUI? If so, this is the video for you. My name is Lance Fryrear, and I have a law firm in Lynnwood, Washington. We've been defending people charged with DUI for more than 20 years. And in fact, I was a Lynnwood prosecutor for 7 years before that. So if you find yourself dealing with a DUI in Lynnwood and you want information, or you just want information about DUIs in Lynnwood, this is the video for you. So I've been making these videos now for 4 or 5 months. This is February 2021, trying to provide information to the public. And it turns out a lot of people watch these videos. So if you find this useful, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps get more people the information they need. So in this video, I'm going to cover 3 things. Number 1, what is DUI? How is it defined? And what are some of the penalties? Number 2, what are some options that people face when dealing with a DUI about licensing, deferred prosecution, things like that? And then most importantly, I think if you're looking for a Lynnwood DUI attorney, how do you find the one that's right for you? That could be us and it might not be us. And so I like to just cover all that I can to try to help in this situation. So number 1, what is DUI? Well, DUI, think about it as driving or operating a motor vehicle, typically a car, truck, could be golf cart, operating a motor vehicle while under the influence or affected by alcohol, drugs, marijuana, prescription drugs, any of that. There's a couple ways to be found guilty of DUI. One is called the per se way. Per se means in itself, and that means you had a breath test or a blood draw within a certain period of time that was 0.08 or higher. For marijuana, it needs to be 5 nanograms or higher, and that would obviously be a blood draw. And so in cases where there isn't a breath test or blood draw that is per se guilty, where the numbers are high enough or maybe it just doesn't exist, then they use the affected by prong to try to prove you guilty. And so that means that the law says that you're guilty of DUI if your ability to operate a motor vehicle is affected in any appreciable degree by the alcohol or drugs consumed before or during driving, not after. And that's rare, but sometimes we do have that defense. And so that's how DUI is defined. There's sometimes people blow an 06 and they say, well, that's under 08, but I still got charged with DUI. Well, in that case, they're usually going to try to use the affected by prong, use the field sobriety test, which I hope you didn't do. But if you did, they're going to use those tests, which are pretty much impossible to pass, against you. They're going to use your speech, odor of alcohol, the driving, things like that to try to show that you're guilty of DUI under the affected by prong. So what are the penalties? Well, a first offense has varied penalties. The minimum might be 1 day in jail. The minimum might be 2 days, depending on what you blew. You can take a look at our first offense DUI video that's also on this channel if you want more details about that. And the penalties are worse if you have prior offenses. If you have more than one offense, I think we have a video on the second offense that jumps up to 30 days in jail minimum or 45 minimum. If you get multiple DUIs, you might be facing a felony. So the penalties are pretty serious. So the second thing I wanted to cover is just some options you might face, you have to deal with. And the first thing is a departmental licensing hearing. If you refused a breath or blood draw, or you had a breath test 0.08 or higher, if you're an adult, a lesser amount if you're a minor, 0.02 or higher if you're a minor. But basically, if you got some paperwork or you think that you might have too high of a breath test, or you have paperwork to request a licensing hearing, you'll see that you only now have 7 days to request a licensing hearing. And what that means is if, let's say you blow 08 or higher, departmental licensing is going to suspend your license for a period of time, and you have 7 days to request a hearing and pay Department of Licensing some money. As of February 15th, 2021, that amounts is $375. Pay them some money to get a hearing. And if you don't have that hearing request postmarked within 7 days of the date of the event, in most circumstances, you waive your right. You can also try to request Departmental licensing hearing online at www.dol.wa.gov. You're going to have to establish a License Express account. Make sure you establish an individual and not a business account. We've seen some people have a problem there. And follow the instructions. If you're not sure if you need to request a licensing hearing, contact an attorney right away. They will walk you through it if they're experienced with defending DUIs. Second option that people think about a little later on down the road is deferred prosecution. Now, hey, I've heard about deferred prosecution. Again, we have a video on our channel all about deferred prosecution, so make sure you look for that. But deferred prosecution basically says once in a lifetime, I can do a 2-year alcohol treatment program instead of trouble for 5 years to get my DUI, in most cases, dismissed. And that's something to think about. For most of us first offenders, we don't want to do that because we want to save it for something more serious, but there are exceptions, so talk to an attorney. But if you heard of deferred prosecution, it's no cakewalk. It's a lot of work. It's very expensive, but that is an option you'll want to consider. Number 3, and thanks for staying to the end, how do you choose a DUI attorney for your Lynnwood DUI? Well, first of all, you're probably going to look at reviews. You're going to look at reviews online. How many reviews does an attorney have? You can look on avvo.com. You can look at Google, obviously. You're going to pay attention to reviews. How thorough are they? Do they sound, heartfelt from people, or are they just two-line reviews? Secondly, you're going to pay attention to how quickly does this firm respond to you? Are they on the ball and dealing with you when you're a new customer? Because if they're not when you're a new customer, it's a bad sign once you already hire them if they're going to stay attentive and on the ball. 3, you're going to ask them the normal questions about how long they've done this and, what do they know about the prosecutor, that type of thing. But most importantly, number 4 is what do they ask you? How do they make you feel? DUI, for the most part, is a technical defense area. There are so many of us attorneys that are very good at DUI defense, technical defenses, because it's a similar case over and over again. But what do they ask you? They talk about your fears in this case. They talk about your frustrations, your wants, your aspirations. Do they try to actually find out what's going on with you? Do they ask if you're sleeping at night? Do they ask about your support system? Any of us attorneys that are highly reviewed can do a good job in court. But I think what we often forget is when we're a suspect or a defendant, we punish ourselves worse than the court ever will. And so I think it's important you have an attorney that pays attention to how you feel and tries to support you through this problem. So I hope you find that helpful. If so, you can, again, like the video, subscribe. And if you are in this situation, feel free to give our office a call. If you happen to have a Lynnwood DUI, I was the Lynnwood prosecutor for 7 years, and now my firm has been defending people for more than 20 years, this type of charge. This is more of an informational video. It's not a sales video, but those are the facts. If you have this problem or someone does, feel free to give us a call. We're available 7 days a week. We'll try to listen to what happened. We'll get you with an appointment. We'll identify a way forward, and we'll try to help you get your life back as soon as possible. We'll be there for you. Thank you.